What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've been sitting back, trying to grind throughout all the content that we have within Black Ops 6 right now for Season 3. And something has been just sitting in the back of my mind, and it's really been making me think hard about the future of Call of Duty and things that Activision really has to nail to make sure that the future of this franchise is very successful. And also, this is one of the biggest downsides of Black Ops 6 as well, which, sadly, we already know all the content's pre-planned. I don't think this is going to be changing anytime soon. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, before we go ahead and dive deep, if you guys are interested in more content just like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I post daily here at 8 Money Eastern Time. And of course, if you guys are interested in my live streams, I stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting between 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, if you guys are interested, I'll link that channel down in the description of this video. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, as I was saying, I've been grinding throughout all this content here. The Battle Pass, I've been finishing it up, and the brand new event that we have here, the Black Ops Tribute event. I know I hear a lot of different controversial opinions about this event, but personally, I've been enjoying all the content. I've been using the new aftermarket part for the MP5 a lot. I've been using the John Black Ops camo. The new perk isn't really something that I've, been super favorable of, but again, you can go back and look at my videos about that, where I discuss, how useful it is and who will probably benefit the most with this perk. Same thing when it comes to the death machine, tons of fun. Sadly, it's not optimized whatsoever, and it lags my stream and gameplay like crazy, and it's the only thing that lags right now, so I'm hoping that maybe an update or something like that will resolve it. But overall, the content that I'm playing around with here is enjoyable, but I'm just thinking in the back of my mind right now that when we finish up this content, what is going to draw people back into the experience? You see, I know I mentioned Modern Warfare 3 a lot on this channel, but seriously, Modern Warfare 3 did something so phenomenal, and that was making sure that we were interested with this game at all times. Even if you're a Call of Duty hater, you still felt intrigued, and you felt like you had to come back into the experience to make sure that you were checking off certain goals and checking off things on your list. But when it comes to Black Ops 6 here, I'm finishing up the event, and I'm thinking to myself, what's going to pull us back in? Now, of course, there's people like me who just simply enjoy games for, the game itself, and I enjoy Black Ops 6 gameplay. I always say the biggest problem is probably skill-based matchmaking and the map designs. And with more better map designs slowly trickling on in, it's, kind of getting a tad bit better. Of course, this pace of content is very slow, but, it's getting there. But when it comes to everybody else in the gaming scene, I think something that's very crucial is making sure that players always have something to do. We're in a different world, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, a lot of us back in the day, we used to be able to pick up a game like World at War, for example, that had no camo grind, nothing really to go for besides prestiging and leveling up. And it was awesome. We were obsessed with that game, addicted partially. People played it nonstop, and there was barely anything to actually work towards besides maybe doing a few challenges and, like I said, prestiging. But that's around about it. Fast forward to current date, gamers aren't like that anymore. Live service has truly changed the perception, of how gamers see video games as a whole. And a lot of people look at these titles and they want content, and they want it at a very quick pace. And these developers say they acknowledge this, and they say they understand this, but in all reality, they don't. A lot of games drop and they don't back up, the amount of content that is needed and required to keep your modern day gamer interested. And I'm being serious about this. Go to any gaming community. Fortnite, Apex, Marvel Rivals, all of these different games, you see the same complaints until, of course, content is dropped and you have things to do. But there's always these long periods of time that are just blank, and you have nothing but people saying that it's nothing going on, what's happening, the game is losing momentum, so on and so forth. And, this is something that's crucial. It's a lot bigger of a problem nowadays than it was back in the day. As I stated before, we had games like COD 4 and World at War, and, all the base Battlefield games as well, that didn't, give you a tremendous amount of content all the time. You were just simply pleased with the games. And it wasn't an issue back then. But now in current date, like I said, I can't put my finger on why it has changed. I still think it is live service. But people have completely shifted mindsets. And what we're getting across the board isn't enough. People need a constant fix to come back into your game. And if you don't have that constant fix, people are going to ditch the title and move on to the next, hot topic. It's crazy. I've always thought this was absolutely absurd, but it's the truth, right? I've had many games that I absolutely love that have basically crumbled away because they couldn't, meet the expectations of the content that people need nowadays. The gameplay is solid, phenomenal, but the game couldn't last because people just weren't interested with what's dropping. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Activision found a way with Modern Warfare 3, all thanks to, of course, Sledgehammer Games. That game absolutely demolished any other title out there that I can think of when it comes to the amount of content that we were getting. I would say per week, not even per month. I mean per week. And that right there, when I tasted that, I knew that the future of COD had to follow that trend. And I'm not messing around when I say this. Activision, please do not be morons. I know you guys like to test things out with this community, but you can't pull back on this one now. Black Ops 7 needs to release with the same exact system that Modern Warfare 3 launched with. And then every single game that drops after Black Ops 7 has to go ahead and keep that system. Now, they can change this system. Maybe they're running out of ideas for aftermarket parts or something like that. And maybe it's becoming a bit difficult to be creative. Doesn't matter. Something needs to be introduced weekly, on a weekly basis, that will encourage players to come back in and play your game. Because, as I said before, that is just what people want. I know, for people like me, it's crazy, but people want content. And that is a big factor, a big reason to why people would devote their own time. Because let's be real here, guys. Time is the most valuable thing that you own, is your own time. That is so valuable. And people will pick and choose, who deserves their time. In gaming especially. And if you can't keep up with that type of content anymore, people will put their time elsewhere to the games that deserve it. And I know people are going to say, well, the content isn't the only problem with COD. And I agree, yes, there's other issues, like the servers and the matchmaking. And there's so many different things that are holding back Call of Duty from its true potential. Trust me, I get it. But even if they were to resolve these servers, or maybe even, tone the matchmaking to a certain degree, the way they are distributing content won't be able to last still, even with all of those positive things being changed around. The fact that Modern Warfare 3 had, extraordinarily thick matchmaking at launch, and the servers were iffy for some. For me personally, it worked very nicely, right? It did pretty good. You guys can look back on my content. I know others dealt with a lot of packet bursts, but I lucked out tremendously when it came to Modern Warfare 3. And I guess because I got that luck, I'm doing horrible with Black Ops 6 because I'm running into all the issues with this game. But again, Modern Warfare 3 worked pretty nicely. But for others, it was way too thick of matchmaking. They couldn't bother dealing with the public match experience. The servers weren't functioning for them. Every time they load in, they're sitting here stuttering around and getting tons of packet burst. But they would still return. They would still come back and play this game because there was something worth grinding for every single week. So they would ignore all of those other factors just because of that reason alone. I mean, even look at the Steam charts. You could see the numbers on how consistent they held their player base. And Steam is notorious for Call of Duty dropping off at significant rates. It always has been. And the fact that they were able to maintain a pretty solid player count throughout that whole time is, in my opinion, once again, not too shabby. So, although I agree with you guys, other things must change as well in order for COD to be, outstanding again. I just want to point out that this is a very crucial feature as well, and I hope that Activision, like I said earlier, aren't going to be a bunch of morons and act like this is not a necessity when it comes to the Call of Duty franchise, because it is. This should be up there in the top 3 priorities when it comes to a brand new Call of Duty game dropping. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and leave this commentary off there. I'm sorry for rambling your guys' ears off with this topic, and I know I mention it so frequently. But like I said, I was just grinding out Black Ops 6, and I felt this so passionately as I was finishing up some of these events and all of this content, thinking to myself, like, seriously, what are people going to do now? And this event isn't too hard to complete, and that's the worst part about it, is that Activision tries to compensate for less amount of content by making events harder to grind and take a lot of time to finish. But then when they twist it around and make it a little bit easier to finish, like this new event where, some are finishing it in zombies within a day or two, like it's nothing, They twist it around and make it quicker, and then you notice how little content is actually being given, It's a solid upgrade, as I said before, compared to previous events that we've gotten. But they seriously have to lock in when it comes to BO7. For the rest of these seasons, I'm not expecting much content-wise, maybe within the seasonal roadmap, but not really within the events. I'm kind of assuming it's going to all look kind of what we're already rocking. Maybe they can upgrade some things, but overall, I'm just looking at Activision and how they're going to allow Treyarch to cook when it comes to BO7, and if that is going to be the game that is prioritized and is getting the extra oomph when it comes to content. If so, that's great. But I just hope that they're not idiots and they think they can get away with milking out the community for more games because, as you could see, that's not doing them so well when it comes to BO6. I personally believe as well that part of the player drop that's happening to BO6 is due to exactly that. Players growing accustomed to how much content Modern Warfare 3 had to offer, including players who didn't even bother playing throughout Modern Warfare 3's life cycle. Players who are coming in fresh, who are just getting into Modern Warfare 3, are also witnessing how much there is to offer. You know, imagine us playing it through from day one to the end, getting all that content weekly, and then someone comes in and sees all of that weekly content just all, at their disposal, and they can grind as much as they want. There's so many things to do, and that is going to attract a player. By the end of Black Ops 6 lifecycle, my question is, will it be the same amount of stuff to, grind for? Are they going to have a similar amount of content? Because from what we've seen throughout these past 3 seasons, they haven't been hitting that mark. And that's why I think a lot of people are bailing. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you enjoyed his video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I post daily here at 8 and 1 Eastern Time. And of course, if you guys are interested in any of my live streams, I stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting between 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, if you guys are interested, gotta link that channel down in the description of this video. But as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all next one. Peace out.